Hey y'all, what's up? So according to Bob Arum, fight between 28-0, 15 knockouts, Devin Haney can happen between 16 wins, 2 losses, 11 knockouts, Vasily Lomachenko. And the fight happens. Hey, look, this fight has to happen. Well, it doesn't have to necessarily happen. I just think it should happen a lot more than a Kambosos versus Devin Haney for a second time. That fight was terrible. I don't even want to watch that fight, to be honest. I think that fight is nonsense. As I've said before, man, George Kambosos Jr. versus Devin Haney was going to be one of the most one-sided, undisputed fights ever. And that's exactly how it played out. Did people really think that this fighter... This fighter who had a split decision with Mickey Bay and Lee Selby would have been competitive? Like, are you serious? Like, no. This fight would have never been competitive in the first place. I don't care if he beat Teofimo Lopez. I do not care about that, man. I know he beat Teofimo Lopez. I saw the fight. But I'm going to give that Teofimo Lopez victory as much credit as I would give Holyfield versus Moore won. Moore did win, I understand. Holyfield was going through heart problems. Teofimo Lopez lost and George Kambosos won, but at the same time, Teofimo Lopez had air in his lungs and could have potentially died and was drained of a lot of stamina. And as we saw in the rematch between Holyfield and Moore, that fight, if you saw the fight, you saw what happened. Moore got dropped like 80,000 times and lost. I don't think if Lopez and Kambosos had a rematch, it would be the exact same thing, but I'm sure Teofimo Lopez would have won a lot more convincingly. I think probably 116, 112, even to that extent, I think so. Teofimo Lopez still wants to claim that he's the undisputed champion when he's not, which is annoying because, the actual undisputed champion deserves credit. Remember, Devin Haney had the actual undisputed belt. Teofimo Lopez was not the youngest undisputed champion. He never was. He was 24 years old. Wait, no, he wasn't 24. I think he was, Lopez was like 23. Yeah, Lopez was like 23 at the time. And as for Lomachenko, well, he lost that fight. He had an injured arm. He couldn't fight. I give this win a lot more credibility because Vasily Lomachenko is actually a very prestigious fighter. A very prestigious fighter. I would never see him getting a split decision victory over a Lee Selby. I would never see him getting a split decision victory over a Mickey Bay. Never. I think he'd pose a lot more of a threat to Devin Haney than many people can think of. But I do think one thing, though, and that is Devin Haney is going to beat him more convincingly than any of these other fighters that he's ever lost to. Vasily Lomachenko is going to get pushed back by a jab. He's going to get convincingly outboxed, in my opinion. Look, he got convincingly outboxed by Teofimo Lopez, but that fight was debatably a draw. I think if Devin Haney fights a Lomachenko, that fight is not going to be seen as a potential draw, bro. I think that fight is going to be another UD for a Devin Haney. I think Devin Haney is going to struggle a lot. The closest I see the scorecards being is like 114, but if the fight does actually happen and the fight is made, I expect like a 115, 113 UD for a Devin Haney because of how good Lomachenko is on the inside. It's just one thing though, for Lomachenko to get on the inside, he'd have to be really savvy, otherwise he's going to get clocked by a jab. But I do think one thing, and that is Lomachenko is a lot more skilled than a George Kambosos, and I think he's going to have less of a problem getting over that jab than a Kambosos did. Even Jorge Linares had a better time at getting over that dang jab. He did, and he gave Lomachenko a closer fight. And I expect the same thing to happen too. I expect Vasily Lomachenko to give Devin Haney a competitive fight as well. I just think that jab is going to be a determining factor of those scorecards. Devin Haney's jab is not like other jabs. That's the thing. Devin Haney's jab is a lot more powerful and a lot more unreadable and a lot more intelligently placed. So it kept So it keeps fighters always at bay. Jorge Linares had never lost a decision like that until Devin Haney came to existence. But neither did Luke Campbell against Garcia. But aside from that, I expect that should have been the actual undisputed fight because I thought it would have been more competitive. But unfortunately, it never came to place, which just sucks, It sucks, but even still, man, that fight would be good. That fight would be fucking great, man. Or freaking, excuse my language. And, now you got him fighting, George Kambosos at Wellborn again. And I expect the same fight to happen, basically. I hope it's better. I hope the second undisputed fight is better, but I kind of don't really expect too much from the second fight. I expect Devin Haney to do the same thing that he always does and outbox his opponents comprehensively. And I expect George Kambosos to keep trying to take the fight to him. From the first fight, looking at it, it did look like Kambosos was trying to box with Devin Haney. He was trying to box more of an educated thing, but I mean, of course he would. He had winner's momentum, and winner's momentum only works for certain fighters. And I don't think winner's momentum worked for George Kambosos at all. I don't think Kambosos was skilled enough to benefit off of the winner's momentum. Devin Haney's just not that guy. And as for Devin Haney, he just put a class on him. It wasn't like a devastating performance. It wasn't like Maidana versus Broner. Of course not. Devin Haney's not that type of fighter, but it definitely was a great performance. Now, the Kambosos versus Lopez fight was amazing, and this fight was not very fun. This fight wasn't very fun, but the Lopez one versus Kambosos was awesome. I hope Kambosos attempts to bring the fight to Devin Haney a lot more in the second fight instead of the first, because in the first fight he was trying, but he didn't know how to get over the jab at all. He could not navigate his way through the jab. And the worst part is too, I thought this fight would have been a little bit more harder for Haney, I guess, but because I felt like Kambosos managed to dodge and tactically go over Mickey Bay's jab, but he just could not do the same for Haney at all. Haney could not. He could not. I guess Devin Haney is just a better fighter in general than Mickey Bay, but literally, man, and a longer reach too, I'm pretty sure. Based off of that Mickey Bay performance, I thought okay, he probably might be able to do something with the jab and might be able to give Devin Haney problems by being able to somehow go over it, but that wasn't the case. That Devin Haney jab seems to be just tactically too fluent for all of these opponents. And I don't know what to think about this rematch. I would prefer a Vasily Lomachenko matchup. I think the fight between Vasily Lomachenko and Devin Haney will happen if Devin Haney still wins this George Kambosos rematch. I expect George Kambosos to lose by another decision. I don't expect anything else. I expect him to just lose by another decision. It's pretty simple. None of these fights are really too surprising to me. None of these fights are really enticing towards me. I just think Kambosos is just going to lose the same way, and that he's truly not an elite fighter in this division. I don't think so. He may have been an elite fighter 4 years ago if he was moved up at a better and quicker pace. Remember, he beat a Mickey Bay and he beat Elise Selby. If he was a fighter around the times of a Richard Comey, a Javier Fortuna, when they were champions, he probably would have a title. He would have probably been a champion, but he did become a champion in this era too, but to being a reigning champion, I don't think so. I think the younger fighters are way too much for him. I understand he's in his 20s too, but fighters like Devin Haney, he's never going to beat. A fighter like Ryan Garcia, he's never going to beat, in my opinion. Looking at how I understand Kambosos struggled with Teofimo Lopez's power and got dropped and hurt, I feel like it's going to be worse with a Ryan Garcia. Because I believe that Ryan Garcia is a lot more of a devastating body puncher and a lot faster. He may not be as fundamentally fluent or as structured as a fighter. I think Ryan Garcia is more bouncy and less less professional looking, I would say, than a Teofimo Lopez, and less structured. But the way how Ryan Garcia punches, I think Kambosos is going to get his head blocked off sometimes. May get dropped more than one occasion, you know. And that's how I pretty much feel about that situation. But aside from that, though, Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko would be a great fight to make. For that fight, I have Devin Haney by decision, of course. I don't think it's going to go any other way. And if it does, I'll be surprised. All right, so let me know your opinions in the comment section about how you guys feel about this fight. Let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.